Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. This is Dr. Elsie Coe. We're talking about negotiating your contract, your career, your life. We have a negotiation expert here today. Dr. Linda Street is going to be speaking with us today. We're going to talk about top 3 tips on getting recognized as a physician leader. Let me bring her on. Hi, Linda. How are you doing?
Hey, good morning. Thank you for having me this morning.
Yeah, sorry about the little glitch there, but we're moving on. So, Linda, I'm going to introduce you. I have some banners here from your website. Dr. Linda Street, she's a board-certified maternal-fetal medicine specialist and a life coach who focuses specifically on physician negotiations. And she's the founder and CEO of Simply Street MD Negotiation Coaching. And I'll show you her website. And this is all over on her website that you can go to. She has a podcast herself, and there's a lot of really good information in there that you can go and see. And she has a course on how do you control your contract. So with that being said, Linda, thank you so much for being here. Let's jump right into it. Let's talk about why you think this topic is really important for physicians, and let's get on to the 3 tips.
Okay. I think first off, thank you for having me, but this is non-negotiable. to overuse the phrase. Like, this is something we have to have because all of us are physician leaders. And it's not really something we can afford to give up or not partake in, because otherwise we're going to lose our voice. We're going to lose our position in medicine. And ultimately, we're the best equipped and the most well kind of trained. We have our pulse on what's going on in a very high level way. And so if we're not standing up as leaders, then we're going to be left with the people who are willing to do so. And oftentimes that's going to be somebody who has less clinical expertise, who has a very business corporate mind towards medicine, which isn't a bad perspective, but is not the only perspective. And so even if you're an employed physician, I'm actually employed, and even if that's your situation, you can't afford not to be a leader, whether you have a title or not. This is something you have to embrace.
Very good. So true. I love that. Yep. We obviously speak the same language. So tell us, what are the 3 takeaways? This is a short podcast. So what would you say are your 3 takeaways for anyone who wants to be recognized? We don't get taught these things. We don't speak the lingo. It's all about relationship building. We didn't know that. We just thought we're the experts and that's all there's needed. Let's talk about some of these tips.
Yeah, so I think the first thing to that effect is we have to be willing to listen. And when I mean this, I don't mean like, okay, somebody's saying words, yada, 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 and you're hearing the words. I mean, you need to be able to listen to what they're not saying. So you really need to have a great idea of what all the members of your team, whether there are people who are in administration, whether there are people in your clinical team, like the nurses working with you, the MA, the gal at the front desk who's answering the phone, you need to know what those people are thinking and what ideas they have. Because if everyone in the team feels heard, everything's going to move a lot more smoothly, and you're going to have kind of untitled leadership. So when I think about listening, I'm not thinking about listening to what someone's saying. I'm thinking about listening to connect to them as a human.
That's right.
Because if you're connecting to your team, they're going to recognize you as someone who actually cares about them as a person. And I think that transcends a lot of titles, a lot of real roles, quote unquote. And so they're going to be on your team, and that loyalty is priceless. But the other piece is everyone has a lot to offer, and you are not unilaterally driving this ship. And so if you're not aware of what different people want, what different people have ideas about, then you're going to miss out on a lot of potential, a lot of opportunities. So you really need to listen to connect to people as an individual, and asking them questions that you don't know the answer to is a big tool you can use to do that. And what I mean by that is a lot of times we'll ask people, oh, what do you think about this? And we have a very clear agenda. So we have a very clear direction where we want to drive that response. But maybe step back a minute and be willing to listen to what they actually think. Be willing to ask a question without pre-filling in the blanks on what the answer will be. And you'll be surprised at what you'll pick up on and what you'll hear. And then that can be used to really move the team forward, which, if you're driving that ship, is going to automatically help you to be recognized as a leader.
Yep, I heard the phrase listen to understand instead of listen to respond. And I've done that myself where I'm talking and I already know what I'm going to say, but and not really listen to what the other person's saying. So it's a habit that you have to form. I love that. It's so true. Be aware of what people want. Talk
Absolutely.
about engaging your employees in that way, right? If you talk to them in a way like they're human, like you said, think of them as a whole being. Ask them how their day was, what that's going on. Oh, you're getting married? Be interested, and it doesn't even take that much time. People, I've had people say to me, "Well, you know what, Elsie, that's I don't have time for that." But you know what? At the end of the day, you don't have time not to be listening to your employees and uh, even your colleagues, people who are above you, in order to make a difference. And that's how you engage employees.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on. What's next?
So that nicely segues into my next tip, which is really creating a power with dynamic.
Uh-huh.
So medicine tends to be, and I hate this word, very hierarchical.
Yes.
It's like I always get tripped up on that. And so there's a clear hierarchy of who's in what position in what we traditionally think of as the model of medicine. And the problem with that is it creates people who are deemed to have a voice and people who are deemed not to. And that has never worked out well in history for any government, hospital, organization, any group of people. And so we kind of need that democratic view of what we're doing in our day jobs, in our day-to-day lives, as our roles as leaders. So you want to create a power with dynamic with both the people that are quote unquote below you on the ladder of responsibility and then people above. And I think that as physicians, this can be challenging, especially actually going upward in the hierarchy towards like administrative folks more than it is to engage our teammates. I think that a lot of us are able to kind of bridge that gap with the folks on our clinical team,
Yep.
even if they have a role that's not the physician on the team. But we have a harder time with those above us. So to create a power with dynamic for someone who has the ability to hire and fire you, or has the ability to make decisions regardless of what you think, it's really about establishing a mutual exchange of value. Like, this is what I bring to the table. This is what you bring. And this is how we go together towards whatever the ultimate goal is. And that goal is not going to be achieved without both contributions. And I think the more you can position yourself as someone who offers value towards the goal or the overarching goal, then the more you create that power with dynamic where
Mm,
you're kind of next to each other, you're both contributing. And that helps your voice to be heard because if they're like, oh, yeah, Dr. Street is someone who can offer a lot of impact on this, and she's going to have some thoughts that we could really integrate to move this forward. They're going to involve you in those conversations. And the more you're involved, the more you can move them forward. And so I think that it's not like writing it down, it's more of a mindset thing.
mhm.
But you have to create this safe place for yourself that I can contribute. My contribution is meaningful so that you are an even playing field as far as value and you can engage in those conversations.
Right. So not only are you placing yourself in a position to lead, even though maybe originally you have never been in a leadership role, or but at the same time, what if you are in a leadership role, to include people who may be your direct reports or people who are underneath you in order to drive the organization forward. I love
Right.
that. So good. Be inclusive, and that includes yourself. And there's a lot of mindset in there, and I'd like to go back to talking about that at the end. So what's next? This is so good.
And I think the third one is being willing to advocate for ourselves. I think a lot of us carry this belief that they just know what I'm doing. I'm contributing all these things. I've ticked off this box, that box, this box. I've built this service line. I've da 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 da, whatever it is. And we feel like people should know that. But we're not willing to toot our own horn and say, look, this is what I've created. This is what I need to continue to move forward in this. Or this is the support I need. This is the staff I need. These are the resources I need. This is the compensation I need so that I can continue to build this and move forward. And some of this is it's twofold. One is being able to ask for what you want. The other piece is being willing to say, this is what I've done
Mhm.
because we assume they just know. There's this magic, like, everybody knows what I'm doing great for the organization. No, they don't. They have
Mhm.
a million different balls up in the air, and your given ball is not always the one on rotation. And so they may know that, oh, this excellent service line was created and it's been hugely valuable to the community and profitable and da 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 da. But they may not know that you're the one who spearheaded that.
Right.
And so you don't want to create capital that you don't claim. And in order to do that, you have to be willing to say, look, I've been able to do this with this. These are the resources I need moving forward to continue or to grow or to build. And so you have to be willing to advocate for yourself so you can continue contributing at a high level.
Right. I've had clients who came to me and said, I don't understand. I did this 360, which is an assessment of people around you, not only your direct reports, but people who above you. And the only person who gave that person a bad score or an average score was her boss. And the main reason when she called him was that, you know, I don't even know what you're doing. He didn't even know what she was doing. So it's important for us to recognize, and a lot of it has to do with your background, your upbringing, maybe, how you've grown up, how you've advocated for yourself or not. Have you not been promoted to think in that way, or your genetics maybe? But it's a learned behavior, and being able to say and advocate for yourself is huge, without being overly confident and and macho about it. So,
Right. Right.
yeah. So let's that those are so good. I love that. So be willing to listen even when even what they're not saying, you want to know. And just being aware of what people want. I just took some notes here, being aware of what people want around you, be inclusive. And that's kind of what she was saying. Be inclusive at all levels. And that's what she was saying about creating this power with dynamic, and then being willing to advocate for ourselves. So good. So, there's two questions I wanted to ask, and you were talking about mindset and how that's important in negotiating and being and really promoting yourself as a leader. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So mindset is kind of, I like to think of it as the box I'm putting myself in. So I can create a really small box and I'm going to squeeze to fit into that box. Or I can create a really big box and I can grow to encompass that box. So you're never going to achieve something that you don't think you can do, because you're not going to do the things you need to do and be willing to place yourself in that uncomfortable place of, am I going to be able to get this done or not, if you're not believing that you can do it. And I love that you bring up confidence, because the definition of confidence is all surrounding trust, and it's to be able to trust yourself. So it doesn't even have to, I think a lot of us have been socialized to think that confidence can be a little bit of a negative trait when at a certain level, but it's really just self trust. So your mindset has to be that, here's this big old box. I don't fit into it yet, but I trust that I can do the things I need to do to fill up this space, to be able to achieve these goals, to be able to lead this team forward towards this objective.
Yeah.
And if you don't create that space, then you're never going to get there. You're going to be stuck with where you think you can go, or you're going to be stuck in the status quo because it's just habitual. And so you're just kind of showing up and doing it without any deliberate forward momentum. And so without that mindset piece, you don't have the foundation you need to be able to jump off and grow. Because if you don't think you can do it, you can't. You're right. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's exactly what you're going to get. And I think when this goes into negotiations, we have so many thoughts about negotiation. I have so many people tell me, oh gosh, I don't know how to do this. I don't even know where to begin. It's so hard. Da, 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 da. You have conversations all day long. All of us talk to other people. And a negotiation is simply a conversation with the goal of making an agreement.
Yeah.
So it's simple. You just have to decide that you're going to allow it to be so.
Right. I always say that self-image is the beginning. Learning to build a self-image of the person that you know that you are and you want to be is paramount before negotiating for yourself in terms of, say, a contract or maybe a deal that you want, a business deal. Because if you don't believe, like you said, your self-image will create a ceiling of how far you can go. And if you don't feel like you can reach that level, then when you're advocating for yourself, it shows up in how you're communicating, your body language, the words that you choose, and you're not going to be able to get that deal done. So good. Thank you so much. And this all has to do with providing the perfect solution for your employer? How does that relate, all of this?
Yeah, so this is kind of the counter side to mindset, and it's their mindset. Because when you're in a negotiation, there's a two-party conversation happening. So each party has mutual agendas, and each party has their own, like they each have their own, and they each have the kind of common goal. And it's easy, I think, to kind of do that little Venn diagram from like third grade science and pick that common goal place and start from there. But I think what may be even more important is what's their side of the Venn diagram that doesn't overlap with yours. What are their goals? What are their agendas? Because this is a nice hack too. If you're socialized to not brag about yourself and you're socialized to feel like it's hard to toot your own horn, you can kind of overcome that by saying, oh, this is something I can do to move this forward. For example, if they have an agenda that involves kind of expanding into the community, the hospital wants to go out into more rural or suburban areas and they really want to take over a market share. Then, if you're someone who has ties in those smaller communities, or if you're someone who has set up a new satellite site, you're going to have a unique skill set beyond your skill set as a clinician to be able to offer to achieve that goal. And so you can say, hey, this is something I've done before. These were the things I learned from that experience. We did some things really well. We did some things that we found had to be adjusted as we went along the way. And I think I can really take that knowledge of that situation and make it smoother this time. This is something I can really help you grow in. And all of a sudden, you're saying something you're good at and something you can offer that's beyond your clinical skill set. So that's going to increase your value. And you're showing them how they have this problem of how do I get into this community? How do I start this service line there? And you're a perfect solution because not only are you the doctor who's going to offer the clinical skill set, but you're the doctor who has the experience of what does and doesn't work when you do a similar task. And not that each expansion is going to be exactly the same, but having that general roadmap, that foundation, that learning from previous failures and successes is going to help you expedite how smoothly this can be because you have some experience that you can build upon to get from place A to place B. And all of a sudden, when you're selling yourself that way to me, if I'm the employer, I'm like, whew, not only am I getting a physician, which is an incredibly valuable asset to my corporation, my facility, our group, whatever, but I'm getting somebody who has this additional skill set and all in one package. And your leverage in your job negotiation is all about how uniquely you solve their problems. If you can show that you're going to solve their problems so much more effectively than someone else with a similar clinical skill set, you're going to get more money, you're going to get more resources, and they're going to want you more. They're going to fight for you. And that's exactly the position you want to be within.
Yep. Keep in mind what it is that they want. And then, because we're so used to tooting our own horn, which is okay too. But if you're going for a position that you really want, that really requires another level, you really need to start thinking about what is it and research what is it that they want and be able to communicate from that level instead of from yours. So it's so good. Thank you so much, Linda. How can people reach out to you if they want to listen to your courses, podcast, the website?
Yes. So you can find me at www.simplystreetmd.com. And that has links to the podcast, which is simpler because the podcast link is long and drawn out and Apple-ish. But you can link the podcast there. You can link the course there. There's a contact me link. So if you have questions or you just want to learn more about something or ask something, you can go ahead and just reach out through that contact form and it automatically goes to me. So it'll show up in my email box and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
All right, awesome. And if you're a physician or if you're a leader who has something to communicate regarding physician leadership, please reach out to me at info@drlcco.com and check out our website at leadphysician.org. We will be having another round of leadership training online for physicians by physicians this summer. And don't forget to her 3 points: be willing to listen, be inclusive at all levels, and be willing to advocate for ourselves. Do you have any last words of wisdom for us, Linda, as we close? Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I think the last thing is just being willing to go out there even when you're not ready. Because when you think about doing these things, your brain is automatically going to offer all the reasons why you're not ready to do it today. And at the end of the day, building that failure tolerance or just building that belief and holding that space for yourself to go out and do things, even not being ready, is going to be what kind of kicks the ball rolling down the hill so that you end up where you'd like to be.
Wow, that's so true. That's, I'm reading some of the comments here, and I usually don't do that, but I just see so many. So um, Dr. Meyer says, I disagree. Not all docs are leaders. I don't know. I respectfully would counter that, Dr. Myers, just that we are leaders in different ways, but at different levels. And Dr. Myers does say that he says leaderpreneurship is different from leadership. Yes, for sure. And I'm just going to read some of these. Dr. Joel Brown said that's also true. Empathy is the new leadership black. And good stuff. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for commenting. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thanks for advocating for physicians into leadership roles for all of you. Dr. Myers, you've done a tremendous amount. Thank you, Dr. Street. Take care, everyone. Till next Sunday.